Until they bring the streetcars back. Chapter 13. Steve had honked more than once before I dashed to the car half dressed. Don't honk. Mrs. Overby will complain to my dad, I said as I ducked into the front seat. I hated to be late when I always needed a ride, and it made me mad that I made Steve wait. Let's go pound on her door, he said. Maybe she'll chase us. He gave it the gas, and the Chevy whined down Portland in first gear. Yeah, with a broom, I said. I pulled on my sweater. Sorry I'm late. It's my dang sister's fault. I had to clean up the whole kitchen alone because she had to go to some dumb birthday party. And if there's one speck of food in the sink or one crumb on the floor, my dad acts like I robbed a bank. I bent to lace my shoes. That little twerp never does anything around there. Do you love her? Steve said without looking over at me. Do I what? I wormed my belt through the loops of my yellow cords and wondered if I heard him right. Love her? She's your sister, for cripe's sake. Yeah, don't I know? I know. I had a brother. You did? I said. I didn't know that. He was born with a bad heart. We slept together in a double bed, and he had trouble breathing, always wheezing and coughing. I never slept very good because I was always listening in case he was in trouble. He was 6. One morning I woke up and he was dead. Dead? Geez, that must have been awful. Yeah, sometimes I still catch myself waking up and listening in the dark to see if I can hear him breathing. When I went up to Lola's door, she zipped out before I could ring the bell, like she didn't want her mother seeing who she was going out with. We had 4 couples in Steve's Chevy, and I felt awkward and kind of stupid. Jerry had Sally on his lap next to us in the back seat, and they mangled Lola up against me, which was a dream come true, except now that I found myself so close, I could smell her juicy fruit breath. I'd turned feeble-minded. Steve had asked Nancy Swanson, a nice girl, but I knew he loved Katie the way I loved Lola, and things were getting more mixed up by the minute. At the dance, I felt like a sorority sister or something, listening to Lola's tale of woe about how awful it was that Tom's dad was breaking them up. I wanted to tell her that Tom's father had just become my all-time hero. Tom's dad said he has to date other girls or he can't go out with me, she told me. What a shame. I said that I sat there like a stump and couldn't think of anything to say, and we sipped cokes and watched kids dance on the gym floor, and I tried to stop the silly grin that kept showing up on my face. When she wasn't dancing with Tom, she said we ought to dance a little so no one would catch on. Actually, I didn't know how to dance, but I held my arms around her little waist, and as we swayed to the music, I could smell her hair and feel the motion of her spine under her yellow Angora sweater. And she was so warm and cuddly, I wanted to pull her close, but I didn't dare. Not only would she wonder what I was doing, but I'd suddenly gotten hard, and I was afraid that she would feel it if I got too close. And sure enough, ensure that everyone in the gym would notice. I was plenty thankful for my full pleated yellow cords, and I pulled my sweater down a little farther as it would stretch. I never asked my friends if it ever happened to them. We never talked about stuff like that. And sometimes I thought I'd be the only kid in class who'd go blind. What's with Tom and Lola? Steve said when Lola and Tom were off in the corner trying to go unnoticed. I thought they broke up. I guess they're still friends, I said. Yeah, and I'm Joe DiMaggio. Katie is sitting right over there, I said and nodded. Don't look over there, he said, and he stepped in front of me. She'll see us staring at her. She won't see us. Go ask her to dance. She's on a date, you dork, Steve said. Ask her anyway. They're not going steady or anything. Yeah, sure. She doesn't even know who I am. But I got up and asked her to dance while she's on a date. Boy, she knows who you are. You're a senior wheel. Yeah, a senior wheel with a flat tire. He shrugged and gimped over to a bunch of stags. Geez, he never said much about his leg or anything, and I didn't think it bothered him anymore. But maybe I was wrong. After the dance, we bombed downtown to Bridgman's, and when we destroyed some enormous banana splits and other ice cream concoctions, Steve drove the streets of St. Paul like he was lost but never quite came up with the nerve to park. Jerry and Sally were necking away beside us like he was going off to war, and I sat there sweating, riding around next to this luscious girl, the love of my life, and I couldn't come up with a single thing to say. But my nervous stomach was coming up with something, and my body was turning into a traitor. My nodding guts were producing gas with the efficiency of Standard Oil, a bulging, expanding balloon that was threatening to explode, and I held off the momentary catastrophe with every muscle in my body. I could imagine the embarrassment, a gigantic denotation right beside Lola, and the pain was killing me. Geez, in social studies, Miss Hilger talked about the Hindenburg so much I thought she must have been on it when it went down. Now the ghost of the Hindenburg was turning up in my belly, and I tried to think of some excuse to have Steve stop where I could bomb out of the car. My stomach churned, and the pressure grew, and I was afraid I couldn't hold it back any longer. Have you gotten to know Gretchen Letterman? Lola said out of the blue. Huh? Oh, no, no. She just sits behind me and study. I don't know her at all. Geez, there I was dying in excruciating pain, and Lola's talking about Gretchen. She seems so strange. I heard her sister went crazy. Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know anything about it. I rolled down the window in preparation for the inevitable. Lucky for me, Steve dropped Lola off first, like he could read my mind. Luckily for all of them. I couldn't have gone another block. Like a woman about to have a baby, I walked Lola to the door and said goodnight as fast as I could. Then I acted like I was clowning around and I limped across Village Lane and out into a dark vacant lot. When I figured I'd gone far enough, I set the Zeppelin free, scaring myself with the horrendous salvo and afraid that I scorched my favorite yellow cords. What were you doing, you nut? Steve asked when I got back in the car. Don't ask, but I just saved your life. When Steve dropped me off, I ambled around to the back of the apartment, feeling lousy, figuring that Lola was as interested in me as she was catching polio. I took the basketball from inside the back door and walked past the basket on the telephone pole in the alley. Basketball would be my life. I didn't understand girls or why I ached for Lola, and I wished I could forget about her because I didn't like to hurt that way. In the shadowed light of the neighborhood, I stood 18 feet from the backboard. My breath showed in the cold night air, and I dribbled the ball twice and let it go in a silent arc for the basket. The only sound was the swish of the net. Someone moved behind me up the alley, and I whirled around and just about jumped out of my skin. Frozen in my tracks, I squinted into the darkness with my heart thumping behind my eyeballs, while a dark figure moved towards me out of the blackness, and I was ready to blast out of there. Cal? I heard a faint noise. Cal, is that you? When she came through the crack of light, I recognized my little sister, dressed in only her pajamas, bathrobe, and untied shoes. Geez, you scared me. What are you doing out here? I moved toward her as she reached the back of the apartment. I forgot to leave food for Hotfoot. Food for Hotfoot? Every day I leave a carrot or something for him. I woke up a little while ago and remembered I forgot. Does he eat it? I asked, touched by her thoughtfulness. I think so. It's always gone, at least most of the time. I put it in the wood pile where we let him go. Does Mom know? No, I sneak stuff for him. He doesn't need much. McCluskey's dog started whining, and the two of us braced ourselves. Afraid it would wake our father, I held the door for her, and we crept into the back stairway, praying that we'd reach the safety of our beds before the dog wailed again. When I crawled into my bed, I could remember the way Lola's hair smelled and feel her spine under her soft yellow sweater, and I forgot to pray for Gretchen Letterman. I got to Finley's Market late on Saturday, and my hands were numb after I put up storm windows in a freezing wind. The bigger ones weighed a ton, and you had to slide them up the ladder and hook the top corners without flipping over backwards and certain death. The green celluloid visor rested on Mr. Finley's caterpillar brows as he held the phone in one hand and scribbled in a beat-up order book with the other. I figured he'd die from lead poisoning one day because he always wet his pencil with his tongue before he used it. Stop at Prior Avenue Liquor, he said. You sleeping late these days or what? He handed me the order slips. No, I was putting up storm windows, and Mrs. Overby made me wash one about 37 times. I wanted to finish the second story so Dad didn't have to go up the high ladder. That's good. How is your dad? Okay, but he's sure they're going to do away with the streetcars. I picked up a wooden box heaped with groceries and backed out the door. I hope he's wrong, Finley said. At the liquor store, the orders weren't ready, and while Sid made them up, I counted the cases of booze in the storeroom, trying to figure out how much money all that was worth. How's basketball going? Said without looking at me, I think. Good, really good. You gonna play much? Yeah, I'm starting at guard. You gonna beat Monroe? Yeah, for sure. I finished my first run afternoon. With an honest excuse to forget about it, I wheeled into the alley and skidded to a stop behind the bakery. Gretchen was nowhere in sight, and I figured I missed her lunch break. After waiting in the truck for a few minutes, I sauntered around the corner drugstore and into the front of the bakery. The woman with hams for arms came from the back. Can I help you? I'd like a sugar donut, please. I gave her 3 cents and nibbled the donut, glancing into as much of the bakery as possible without appearing too obvious. A few a few customers came and went by. Gretchen never showed. When I When I was left with nothing but sticky fingers, I retreated to the delivery truck, and as I was about to get in, the back door of the bakery swung open. Mr. Bueller came out with a cardboard box. Gretchen is homesick, he said to me. Who? I tried to look like I didn't know what he was talking about. I think it's all right that you come and see her. Her father is too strict with that girl. I'll never squeal on her. Stopped this morning to say she was sick. The baker smiled at me and set the box on a garbage can. Thanks, I nodded and slid into the truck. It was a gloomy, windy day, and a strange dread followed me on my second run. I couldn't help wonder if Gretchen was really sick or if something worse had happened to her. When I loaded back at Finley's, I tried to find out where she lived, but their name wasn't in the phone book. Didn't they have a phone? Geez, why didn't I forget about her? More kids than I realized knew she followed me around at school like a mongrel. And now the baker? I wasn't getting the big head. I wasn't getting the big head with basketball or anything. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be seen with Gretchen, but cripes. There was something scary about her and her father. I felt danger around her. She wore it like those ugly brown shoes.